This time out, we're covering WWF European Rampage Tour, developed by Arc Software and published by Ocean Software, the same company behind the WrestleMania computer game we covered way back in episode 24. The game was released in late 1992 for the Amiga, Atari ST, Commodore 64, and MS-DOS. According to Wikipedia, and as the name implies, the game was targeted towards the European market. Now, I don't know if that means the game was only released in Europe, had a limited release in the US, or just got released everywhere. I don't remember seeing it in stores, but I certainly wasn't looking for Amiga games back then. If you played it and you're not in Europe, let us know in the comments below. Despite its name, you don't sadly grow into a monster and destroy the various cities of Europe. Instead, the game is based around tag team wrestling. You can choose a team from 4 wrestlers: Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, The Ultimate Warrior, and Bret Hart. They must have chosen the roster the day of WrestleMania 8. Since that's the only day in 1992 all 4 of those guys were in the company together. And, where's the British Bulldog? You know, the guy actually from Europe? He was around for most of 1992. Well, that's like marketing a game for the military and leaving out Sergeant Slaughter. You have to beat the Nasty Boys, Money Inc., and the Natural Disasters 3 times each in different European venues. The Britannic Arena in London, the Deutsche National Arena in Munich, and finally the Palais Omnisport in Paris. After those 9 matches, you advance to a championship match against the Legion of Doom in the Madison Square Garden. Guess everything really does revolve around MSG. By the way, there's no difference between the various venues, just the backgrounds. You'd think they'd have something to differentiate them. Maybe make one of them a steel cage match, or at least play different countries' national anthems during those matches. But nope, if you focused on the ring only, you notice no differences at all. Oh, and if you're playing the Commodore 64 version, they took out the tag option and made it singles matches with a member of the various tag teams. So if a healthy chunk of your gameplay revolves around Jerry Sag's singles matches, you've probably gone off the rails a little. Start up the game and noted computer expert Animal hands you the floppy disk to proceed. By the way, you have to use 3 different floppy disks just to play the first match. Always a good time. The graphics look great at the beginning, but the music's even better. You get actual renditions of wrestler themes, not midis or anything. Sean Mooney makes his only video game appearance, runs down the action, and you're off to the first match. Sadly, the great early presentation doesn't transfer over to the gameplay. The wrestlers are on the smallish side, but you can tell who's who. But the graphics look like they've been colored in with crayons, a big step down from the Amiga version of WrestleMania. The controls are a bit of a mix. Your wrestler moves quite well, and maneuvering around and running are quite easy, even on a keyboard. One annoying thing is that when you try to turn around, you don't just instantly turn from left to right. Instead, you do this weird swivel move, and you see your wrestler turn all the way around. This sounds minor, but it's frustrating when you're trying to make a tag and you can't get to your corner in time. So moving around is easy enough, everything else is impossible. The manual notes, and I quote, "When your superstar is close to an opponent, they may lock arms." May is an operative word here, as it seems very random. And I can only manage to lock up once or twice a match. In other games released around this time, just getting near your opponent would trigger a grapple. Here, it's basically impossible. And even when I did manage a grapple, I ended up punching my opponent anyway. You can also, in theory, pick a winded opponent up over your head and slam them, something I was never able to do. So the end result is a wrestling game with barely any wrestling. One interesting thing is when you fight outside the ring, you can actually go to the top of the screen, even though you're obscured by most of the ring. Most games have that blocked off by invisible walls. Look, I play a lot of wrestling games and notice these things, okay? Go for a cover and Master Hand from Smash Brothers will make the count. Wait a minute, you can go for a pin when the guy's on his stomach? They must use Kamala rules in Europe. Anyway, kick and punch your way to victory and win the titles in New York, and Jimmy Hart makes a pitch to be your manager. It's a little weird since he was a heel at the time. I know he turned face just after the game came out, so maybe Ocean had a lot of foresight. There are scraps of a good game here. The tag mechanics are well handled, and the intro graphics and music are great. Nothing else works. The graphics are washed out, the controls are beyond frustrating, and the gameplay repetitive. This was the last WWF computer game released for almost a decade, and they sure went out with a fizzle. Well, till next time, thanks for watching, and remember, a winner is you.